Hi, everybody. It's nice to have you here for the fourth installment of the Metric Minute, brought to you by Vault Performance. I'm Kareem Derkawi, and this time we'll continue our discussion with force at zero velocity, a pivotal part of the counter movement jump. In straightforward terms, FV0 is a measure of how much force an athlete is pushing into the ground exactly between the eccentric and concentric phases. In other words, the lowest point of their squat. This metric is important for two key reasons. First, it represents how hard and fast an athlete was able to decelerate in the eccentric phase. If an athlete can descend rapidly plus have great eccentric strength, both desirable aspects in performance and rehab settings, then the eccentric phase will finish with a very high level of force. Lower results suggest otherwise and are part of ineffective jump strategies. The second point is that FV0 can give an excellent start to the concentric phase. A primary objective in jump performance training is maximizing concentric impulse, and starting the phase with high force helps tremendously. Lower results compromise jump height and peak power, among other things. Now, training FV0 can be as simple as learning to drop faster or increase eccentric tolerance in any number of ways. However, the full jump movement pattern should never be neglected. Essentially, the take-home message is that FV0 is literally the one data point that is both the overall outcome measure of the eccentric phase as well as the prelude to concentric performance. It's generally desirable to train for a higher FV0. For more details on force at zero velocity and anything else, feel free to reach out to us at Vault Performance. Thank you.
The world of strength and conditioning is filled with some awesome practitioners who are always trying to evolve and continue to grow professionally throughout their career. The problem with many of us, though, is finding a new outlet, a new way, and a new perspective on the questions that we may have, whether it be programming, whether it be situational with dealing with coaches, or whether it be career advice. Because all too often what happens is we get stuck in with the same group of friends and the same group of colleagues that we reach out to for advice repeatedly over and over again. But what we should really be looking for is different perspectives, different people who have been through different situations who can help us make better decisions both for ourselves and our athletes. And one awesome place to start with that is the forums in the Strength Coach Network. In the forums in the Strength Coach Network, you'll be able to reach out and get feedback, input, and advice from coaches from all over the world. From everything from career advice to training modalities to programming, there's people there just for the same reason as you are, to try to get better, to learn, to share information, and to grow the field of strength and conditioning. So hop on over to strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASPS, that's strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASPS, to dive into all that great content today and get your 48-hour trial for only $1. I look forward to seeing you in the Strength Coach Network. Hey, what's happening, everybody? DeMayo coming at you with this week's edition of My Thoughts Monday. And this week, I'd like to talk about something that I think really does need to be addressed because it's something that people in this world of sport performance like to talk about. But I don't think our actions of late are truly going to align with what we say we are and we do. More often than not, when you talk to people that work in strength and conditioning, you hear them say things like they are lifelong learners, that they want to make sure that they're doing what's best for the athlete. And part of that is to ensure that you are constantly educating yourself to become better and to grow, because the minute you stop getting better, your athletes stop getting better. Well, I think all of that is true until people start asking questions about what people do. What do I mean by that? Well, when we sit here and you make the mistake that I just made today and scrolling through Twitter and diving deep into the rabbit hole that is strength and conditioning coach Twitter, you notice something that is pretty obvious. That there are some people that get very, very defensive immediately when things become questioned. Mostly this is around the traditional aspects of the physical preparation in American football. Now, if we are a group of people that say that we are ever evolving, that we are constantly learning, that we read so many books a day so that we can get better, then why, when someone brings up something new or questions the status quo, is that something that is looked down upon and gets so defensive about. We talk all the time about how we're not married to exercises, we're married to results. But if we really are, then why are we sitting here fighting when people want to know if there's a better way to do things? Now, for the most part, this is based upon the methods utilized to evaluate American football players and then the implementation of match drills and the reasons behind it. Full disclosure, complete and total honesty here. I couldn't care less what you do. This really has nothing to do with me. What this has to do with is how our inability to talk about this is going to hamstring us as we try to sit here and continually move forward to find a seat at the table. I don't care if you do 300-yard shuttles or 16 110s or some random test for whatever that you develop. I don't care at all. As a matter of fact, it doesn't bother me in the least bit what you choose. But what I want to start to hear from people is why you're choosing it. And I think that that's the big thing, right? When we sit here, I think most people would say, if you look at literature, the structure of mat drills, traditionally, does not allow people the rest time required in order to increase speed or change of direction ability. It can. You can give more rest time. You can do those things. But we typically don't do that. But if you have a reason why, that's fine. If you were saying that you want to, as I had a conversation during fellowship today about this, if your reasoning behind running 300-yard shuttles is that it tests your, lactate threshold or your ability to work at lactate levels, and the more work that you can do at that level, the more work you can do below that level, therefore you should be in better shape to repeat bouts in a game. All right, that works. Fine. Got it. I might not agree with the test. I might not agree with the reasoning behind the test, but you got a reason, and it makes sense. So who cares? But to sit there and say things like, give us back our sport, one, what does that even mean? It's not like someone questioning how we do things, and if there is a better way to do it, ends the game. And two, that sounds like just some whiny, crybaby, I'm going to take my ball and go home answer. When in the reality of it, if you're telling me that all these things that we've been doing make you mentally tougher, this then would be an indictment against that. Because it looks like you can't sit there and take a deep breath and say, okay, I hear what you're saying. I don't agree with it. This is why, and this is why we do what we've done. And if you can't sit at the table and have a conversation about that, then we're not going to go anywhere. Now, are the people on the other side possibly questioning more than asking questions? Sure. Are the people on the other side possibly being a little bit more abrasive than they need to be? Sure. But at the end of all of it, if nobody's listening and nobody's willing to talk it out and figure out ways we can be better, it's not helping us at all. At all. And all it's doing, like everything else that's occurring in our society at the present moment, is dividing us further and further apart. I don't care what you do. I don't care how you do it. I don't care what you're evaluating. And I don't care how you're evaluating it. But if your immediate response is, give us back our sport, that's wrong. And if your immediate response is, the old way is stupid, do it this way, that's wrong too. But if your response is, so why do you take that and utilize that or use this or measure that? Then you can have a discussion. Enough of this ego-driven, my way or the highway, slap fight garbage that is Strength Coach Twitter. Enough of it. It's really disconcerting to see that in 2020, a group that is begging to be involved more and begging to have a seat at the table in the decision-making process is still fighting amongst themselves as opposed to listening to each other and building upon each other to be better in the long run. Now, I'll point the thumb. There's some things that I see people do and I hear people do and I do the same thing. We all do it. And we all need to be better. And it's going to start in the mirror. So the next time, before you sit there and have some emotionally driven rant response on Twitter that's going to get us nowhere, why don't you take a step back and say, so why do you actually see that? Where are your thoughts coming from? And how can I learn from you and be better? Because if we're not willing to share one-on-one, then we're never going to share as a bigger group. And if we're not going to share as a bigger group, then this whole idea of these secret powers that strength coaches have is going to continue to just formulate around, and we're going to be spinning our tires going nowhere. If we want the profession to be a profession, we have to be professional. Maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe I'm the child. Maybe I'm the fool. But I'd love to hear your input on this. I'd love to hear your feedback on this. And I'd love to know how we can all be better. Because you know what? I want a seat at the table. And I'm going to fight to find a way for us to be better and for us to keep growing. So let's work together to do that. As always, truly appreciate everything y'all do for us here at Central Virginia Sport Performance. We'll be back next week with another My Thoughts Monday. I will see you then.